And welcome back to another episode of Lost and Down. Steven is still in Greece on his honeymoon, so today it will be David and I on our post-draft show. And David, we have a lot to talk about here. We'll start, first of all, we all know I always travel to this draft. We had a hiccup, personal family issue stuff, so we missed day one, so we had to actually go day two. But Detroit, sneaky like Cleveland, just a terrible reputation, but when you're there, a lot better of a city than it's kind of perceived to be. I had a really good time. I thought the people were great in Detroit. David, how did you watch the draft? Did you get the chance to watch it with family? Were you just kind of chilling out at home? What were you doing?
Funny, I gotta be honest, I watched maybe like 10 minutes of the actual footage of the draft. I just
Good
kept
for you.
tracking it through the draft cast on the app, mostly because Heather hates the draft. Like, she thinks it's the most boring event ever. And I'm like, all right, well, like, let's watch TV and I'll just, watch it from my phone.
This is the first time I had a chance to watch the first round of the draft, with the exclusion of the COVID year where they didn't travel for it, since the Johnny Manziel draft, I think 2013, 2014. So it's been a long time. I was blown away with how different the coverage was versus what we grew up with. And it leads me, I have some takes I got to fire off here today, because it really kind of sat wrong with me when I watched it this year on Thursday. So the last couple nights I've been on YouTube, and I highly recommend, if you're a draft nerd like I am, or simply just want to see how the old coverage was, I've been going back and watching drafts from 1998, 1999, 2000, and just to see how different the actual coverage was. It was a different world, David. They did X's and O's film study for every player in the first three rounds. I remember bitching about what back then it was round 1 through 3 in a day. Then day 2 was 4 through 7. And I'd complain about round 4 through 7 not having enough coverage on it. You can't get coverage in the first round anymore. It's just, hey, tell me about how great your kid is. Oh, my kid's really great. Thank you. Let's go back to the studio. What is this? This can't be, like, it's not fun for you guys at home. I don't blame you for not watching. And I tell you what, I love the draft. There's a reason I travel for it. I'm not dogging the NFL. There's a reason why they've got a cash cow here. But it feels like they're going commercial, bright lights, fireworks versus substance now. And it's hard to say it's not declining in value. Am I wrong?
No, not at all. I think so. Not only are they trying to do like more commercially stuff, I feel like they're also trying way too hard. Like, they're trying way too hard to capture an audience that just isn't watching the draft, right? Like, interviewing the parents and interviewing, like,
who's that for? Who is asking for that?
It's for, like, they're thinking that the people who don't watch, who like watch the Super Bowl for the halftime show, are going to like watch that with the person in their household who wants to watch the draft and go, oh, this is interesting to me, right? But like, that's not what's happening. All it's doing is pissing off your conglomerate of fans.
And the people that this is for, the people that watch it, the people that care about the draft, are typically football fans, like truly fans of the game of football. Go and actually break down the picks like they used to. That was valuable. I felt like I learned stuff last night watching football drafts from 25 years ago. And it doesn't happen anymore. You get at most like 3 plays, and then you go back to the panel, and it's just a hot takeoff. Let's just talk about how this guy's going to affect the quarterback, and then talk about the quarterback for the next 8 minutes. It's a bad product, a bad television product now. I'm getting revved up, but I've got some stories too. God, but David, sorry, please go ahead.
It's why I actually enjoyed watching from my phone. I would literally wait, I'd be scrolling Twitter or whatever, and then, you get the alert and you just go in and you see who the next pick is. And then I go and you click their name and you get to watch some quick highlights, just if you don't know them that well or you want to refresh, right? But for the most part, the first round, you know about everyone that's going. Second and third round is a little bit more fun because that's when you really get to, evaluate and see what, on your own rather than whatever they're feeding you on TV. But I don't know. I actually preferred not to watch the DraftCast after watching maybe like 5 minutes of it.
I don't blame you because watching the first round, it really kind of bothered me. I was watching ESPN. I should have flipped and see maybe if NFL Network was doing a little bit different kind of coverage.
Didn't NFL Network fire everyone that they normally did the draft though?
I don't
Not to
know.
steer us in the wrong way, didn't they fire like a bunch of people off of NFL Network recently? Maybe I'm
See, I
totally
know
wrong.
that Rich
Forgive me.
Eisen used to do the show, and then they would have Daniel Jeremiah or back then Mike Mayock. Mike Mayock's no longer there. I don't know if they fired
Well,
up
didn't
like other people.
Siciliano or whatever, and oh god, like another person always do the draft too, or maybe I'm outside my mind. I don't know.
See,
Maybe I'm outside my
I'm the
mind.
wrong person to ask because I'm
I never
watching the
watched the
draft in
NFL
person.
Network. Yeah. Well, I never watched the NFL Network feed either, but
Well, and I'm an
uh,
idiot. The whole reason we watched ESPN versus NFL Network this week, first of all, nostalgia factor. I don't care if people don't think he's great anymore. Mel Kiper is the NFL draft. And I can't do it without Mel Kiper. And I can't do it without that NFL draft chime for ESPN. It plays into my feels. It makes me feel like I'm a 9-year-old on a Friday or what was it? I think it was Saturday and Sundays how the drafts used to be. On a Saturday at noon with my dad watching the Raiders take Jamarcus Russell or
mhm.
Darius Hayward-Bay, Darren McFadden, on and on and on. But a couple things real quick I want to bring up because I didn't really feel like I hammered it home because we have a lot of Motor City Kitty listeners. Detroit was a unreal city. I love the people. I got recommended Louis Pizza. It's a Detroit style pizza about 10-15 minutes north of town. It is everything that Chicago pizza thinks it is. Detroit pizza, dude, is gas. I could go
uh,
back right now and eat that pizza with a big ass smile on my face.
Detroit style pizza. Now remind me because I didn't in Milwaukee. I learned about how all these random cities have their own style of pizza. Right? Detroit style is like a rectangular with like the hard crusted pepperoni, right? Or not hard crusted, but like you know what I'm talking about, like
It's
little
hard
curled up a little
crusted.
bit.
I was just say I don't know what you mean with the hard crusted pepperoni. At least
It's
not
like
the kind I
it's
had.
like baked and curled up. It's not like it's not hard crusted. That was a really bad
Well,
description,
no, it's
but
like pan. It's like a pan pizza
yeah,
where it's almost caramelized on the outside,
yes.
and it's delicious. They put the sauce on top. They have the pepperoni under the cheese, and it was almost because deep dish in Chicago's too deep. It feels like I'm eating like a quiche
It's
or
a pie.
something.
It's I
It's a pie,
deep dish is have you ever watched Parks and Recreation? Deep
of
dish
course.
pizza, much like skim milk lying about being it's water lying about being milk. Deep dish pizza is just pie lying about being pizza. I mean, it's not good. I don't enjoy it at
No,
all.
I could do like a piece because first of all, too, the crust is ass. In Chicago deep dish, it's not good. It's like you're eating a pie crust. And I'm
My
sorry, I don't
favorite
need to have the cheese and sauce on that.
Yeah, my favorite is that everyone says that it's like, oh no, it's bad if you go here. No, I've had it everywhere. All right, it's terrible everywhere. Like no matter where you go, it's bad.
And I'm not stupid. I know that maybe if you grew up with it, it's different for you. We didn't. We've had good pizza in our life. That's our fault. So now we like good pizza. And I tell you what, Detroit, it truly is. It's what Chicago pizza thinks it is. It's a little thinner, so it's actually enjoyable. I highly recommend Louis Pizza. It was gas. Uh, but otherwise, the NFL has to get better about security. They have to get better about their employees at these drafts. David, I walked in with steel toes boots on. Forgot I wore them when we got left that morning to head up to Detroit. Alarm goes off naturally through the metal detector. I go, hey guys, I'm sorry. I think I have my steel toes probably set it off. Okay, so no problem. What what do you mean? I just was trying to alert you so you knew what it was so that you can look and prove. No, just go on your way, sir. All right, sounds great. Dude, we live in 2024 in the United States of America where we have a news story on CNN or our local news every single night about a tragedy because some moron takes a gun into a loaded or a big area. We saw it happen with the Super Bowl parade. It's just amazing that they are playing with people like this. And it goes beyond that. I'm going to get fired up because this pissed me off.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
I believe
Go
it, but
ahead,
it's
please.
exactly like the fucking GIF where the guy is doing like this or like, oh yeah, you're good. It's the same concept. It's if you don't care, why should anyone else? I just I don't
And
know.
we saw it happen again at the Kansas City Super Bowl parade. You would have thought that woke people up, but it went beyond that. Because I'm going to sound like an NFL draft Karen, and that's fine. But try to hear me out before you start getting on me for complaining here. You get there at all these drafts, there's a standby line. And when you get in the standby line, you're basically trying to get picked to go up into the draft area. They usually do it on teams, so like quotas. So my buddy throws on a Raiders hoodie so that we're both in the same gear so that we can get pulled in as soon as they need Raider fans. No problem. They have you in like a pig pen, is the best way I can describe it, where there's about 10-foot wide line and it goes up about 150 feet and they jam you in like cattle, but they don't have any like people on the outside looking, so you have people getting blasted, blitzed, you have people cutting and pushing, and they're in there for 5 hours. There's little kids in here, there's people screaming profanities, and then what happens? Patiently waiting for 4 or 5 hours, we're halfway through day two, and this dumbass security guy, whoever it was that's working for the NFL, just says, you guys are all going to get in. We're going to give out these wristbands. So what happens but a mass push, like incited a riot where people are all pushing up against the fence, throwing their arms over. Again, there's children. I'm a 300-pound guy. I'm a big dude. And I got separated by my buddy by 30 or 40 feet. And I like lost my mind. It just set me off. The whole thing, it's like unsafe, and it punishes the real fans that are there and the casuals that are just there to have a good time, to get hammered, to scream vulgarity, to do whatever the hell that they want to do. They're the ones rewarded. And it's not just the TV product, it's all getting watered down. It is so commercial. It is so not for the product anymore. I tell you, I won't do the standby line anymore. We're not paying to get in, which is a pretty penny, by the way. If we aren't paying to get in, we're going to be standing in the back, and I don't give a shit anymore. Because you know what? It's a joke. It is truly a joke. This billions and billion-dollar industry, one of the leaders in the United States, is letting people get bullied, pushed around, and they don't give a shit because we're there, we're spending money, and that's all they care about. But let's talk about setting a new draft record again, right? Whatever. Sorry, David. And by the way, none of that's Detroit's fault. This is on the NFL. And again, do you want an ultimate draft Karen? I'm not kidding. I will be writing a letter to the NFL. I will be writing a letter and I will be mailing it into the headquarters. And I swear I will get it heard. I don't need anything. I'm not looking for anything. This is just a joke and it needs to be fixed. By the way, last thing, and I will shut up. Super fans, the NFL super fans, the biggest losers of human beings you'd ever believe in your life. They truly think they're celebrities. They walk around giving out like stickers and cards so that they get money so that they can keep traveling. Sorry, dude, nobody cares that you're 45 and whatever you're doing, you get to travel around. That's great. You get to dress up. That's cool. No one cares. You're not better than everybody. You don't get to just walk up and cut people. God, I hate some people. But we do have good news. Before we start getting actually talking about some fun stuff, and Wally stops bitching for a little while, Ross, Brian, my uncle Scott, Frank, Tyler, Zach, Mitch, and Abby all hammered their picks right this last week. We're giving a couple little half credit. We're giving them in there, like Mitch, Edgerrin Cooper. He got drafted in the second round, still had him to the Packers. Abby had Xavier Worthy going to the Bills at 28. They just so happened to trade out of that spot, and the Chiefs moved up and took Xavier Worthy at that spot. So we're giving them those credit points anyways. That's what we do here. But a couple things before we actually get into talking some winners and losers of the NFL draft, David. Some big news last couple days. Travis Kelce signed a 2-year extension today. Numbers we still don't have us in front of us. I think it was something along the effects of $33 additional million per year. He's under contract until he's 38. It's a no-brainer deal, right? As long as he wants to stay football, you got to keep him around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he's 34 now with no signs of slowing down. Knock on wood. But I don't know. It's a great deal. I mean, you keep your all-star receiver, the only guy you really got that's proven on the team right now, on the team, and you make him happy and you ride it out as long as you got Patty Mahomes.
He could be 58 years old, and if Patrick Mahomes wants Travis Kelce to get paid, then you pay the dude. It's that simple. And if Travis Kelce wants to play football, he will be a Kansas City Chief, and good for him. Ezekiel Elliott also got signed. He's going to be going back home to Dallas. And it took him signing there for a couple weird things to pop out to me, David. Somehow, some way, Zeke is 28 years old. He's not 38. He's 28 years old. It's impossible. Someone forged a birth certificate. And get a load of this, too. He was the New England Patriots leading wide receiver last year. What is going on? Those are absurd things to know.
He was horrible rushing the ball, but out of the backfield, he could catch him like anybody else.
When nobody saw that coming, too. If you look back at Zeke, I guess he got better in his NFL career. But even early on, it wasn't his game. His game was be the bruiser between the tackles, and he had that burst. Not that guy anymore, but I guess if you're going for nostalgia and you're trying to win people over when you're very clearly not all in, that's how you do it. But let's jump into our winners and losers of the NFL drafts, our biggest takeaways. A lot of winners and losers, David. We're both got 3 of each. Let's start with you. Who is your first winner of this draft?
Toss up. Let's just go in alphabetical order, right? The Colts for me. Didn't make, I don't know, significant movement in terms of trading up, trading down. Didn't make didn't draft Caleb Williams, but they made some seriously impactful moves on paper, getting the best pass rusher in college football halfway through the draft. A receiver getting a fringe round 1 grade in round 2 and Mitchell. And then they bolstered the line in secondary with the rest of their picks. It's just, for me, they did what you're supposed to do, best player available, while also filling some needs. And, they did it quietly, but it's just a solid A draft for the Colts for me.
Anthony Richardson will be fired up, especially with some of those. He will be back. I know fans are fired up too. My first winner, it's got to be Drake May, because he gets drafted by the New England Patriots. And the Patriots, we all know, have done nothing for their quarterbacks the last several years. What did they immediately turn around and do? 6 of their 7 draft picks after Drake May were offensive players. 3 of those being pass catchers, 2 of them being offensive linemen. It clearly feels like they're committed more in Drake May and trying to develop him appropriately than what we'd seen in the past few years. So I think it's impossible to call it anything but a win for Drake May. And here's the thing. They have a lot of holes they still need to fix on offense, but hell of a first step. And you know what? If you're trying to be a Josh Allen type quarterback in that division, this first year, he's going to be in a very difficult schedule. He's going to be in a very difficult place. If you're not going to support him, the team's doomed. How about your second winner here, David?
The Eagles. They took a 28th ranked coverage unit and they were offended by it. And then they drafted 2 of the top cornerbacks in the draft in back to back, in addition to an explosive edge in the 3rd round. So, I think they had a wonderful draft, because between Mitchell and DeJean, both those guys we had in our mock drafts going, I think, in the top 20 picks, top 20.
They were my top 2 corners.
Yeah, I don't know how Cooper fell out of the 1st round, if I'm being totally honest. I really don't. I think maybe some conscious bias may be playing into that, but I just the Eagles just sat there and said, "Oh, our biggest weakness is corner. Quinion Mitchell. Look at why not, right? 2nd round comes around. We could take the next best corner in the draft. Okay." It wasn't that hard for them. And, they didn't overthink it. They drafted best player available, quite literally. And, again, solid A draft for me.
And Zach Youssef called it. We're so used to the offense and defensive line being the pick there in the 1st round for Howie Roseman and the Eagles. It feels like as soon as everybody felt like they got the book on him, he zigged when everybody else zagged. And to your point, got two of the best corners in the entire class. My second pick, homer pick, I do not care. Gardner Minshew and Raider fan sanity. When is the last time, has it happened in our life, where best player available was truly the approach for a Raiders GM? Tom Telesco has completely won me over. I I can't even tell you, David. I was melting down. I'll have to post the videos with our clips later in the week. But when we took Jackson Powers Johnson, I almost started crying. Not even because like it was like an overwhelming pick. It's just they're trying to just focus on building the best roster possible, and they're aware they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year. When everybody took quarterbacks, when everybody in the world had the Raiders taking a quarterback, they instead go out and take what they feel at that point is the best player in the draft. They didn't just draft a tackle because they need one. They didn't just draft a quarterback because they need one. I've never been so encouraged. Call me a homer, but I left this draft, David, happier than I've ever left a draft.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
All right, how about that third winner from you? What do we got here?
The pain that I'm going through saying this, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, man, had a great draft. They addressed their offensive line immediately, went out and got a, on paper, equivalent replacement for Deontay Johnson. Obviously, Deontay Johnson's a little bit underrated as a receiver, so I'm not going to go out there and say, he's a surefire one-to-one replacement. But on paper, style, type, everything is a replacement for Deontay Johnson. But again, just another solid draft for the Steelers. And I just feel like, for me, the biggest winners of this draft are the ones who didn't do a whole lot and just sat back and took exactly what they needed to take and best player available, and just, didn't make ginormous waves, but will when it comes to next season.
Troy Fautanu was never going to get to the Steelers. And it's just such a Steelers pick that they stay patient. And I tell you, Omar Khan, we got to keep our eyes open. That is a hell of a GM there in Pittsburgh. He's been just making incredible move after incredible move. If I'm a Browns, Bengals, Ravens fan, it feels like the Steelers of old are a lot closer than what we've seen in 5-6 years. Like, even when they had Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Big Ben, there was a blue collar grit that was missing from the Steelers that is very evident that they're trying to bring back. My last winner, I guess, for you guys is going to be Washington fans. And I'm not even a Jaden Daniels guy. But this draft beyond that, you move after Jaden Daniels, this has to be as exciting of a time for Washington football fans that we've had in our lifetime. It was the first time, to me, it felt like Dan Snyder was truly in the rearview mirror, and you could feel a direction. You could feel a front office with a plan. Even if Jaden Daniels doesn't work, with the moves you saw yesterday or this past weekend, it makes me very comfortable saying that this is the brightest the future's been in Washington, probably in our life, at least since the RG3 draft. So congratulations to Washington. But not congratulations for this next few teams. We have losers, David. And we'll start with you. Who was the biggest loser in the draft? And I think I know your answer.
I literally, this was the easiest thing for me, and it's the Atlanta Falcons. And I think most people are going to focus on Michael Penix Jr., right? That was a colossal overdraft. It was just a matter of which team was going to overdraft him, but it was a colossal overdraft. And the problem with it isn't that they overdrafted him. That's like part B. Part A is that you just got Kirk Cousins and signed him to an extension. And now you're going to overdraft the oldest quarterback. I think the oldest quarterback in the draft, might be off by like 6 months, but one of the oldest quarterbacks in the draft. I think he's 24, or maybe he's about to be 24. And you're going to have him sit for 3 years. He's going to be Brandon Whedon by the time he gets to play. That wasn't a smart draft strategy for me. But, ignoring that first pick that everyone knows was wrong, right? You got Kirk Cousins. All you need to do is bolster the team with best player available, literally. And at that time, that first pick, it should have been defense. You had your pick of the litter. You know, you could have picked any defensive player you wanted. It would have been the right choice right there, right? And they didn't. But you know, you go on to pick number two, which you know, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name out of Clinton, but Rook, right? The guy was
Dude, you weren't the only one, by the way. Did you see? I can't remember who it was that made the pick for him. He was like at the podium and had like a panic attack. Like, what do I do with this name?
Yeah, yeah, you're screwed. No matter what,
Yeah, it's
screwed.
over. You couldn't draft anybody else here? Throw me a bone.
Well, that's the beauty of it, dude. They traded up. They traded their third rounder to move up 8 spots to draft a guy who was like a 70, you know, he was sitting at like 70 on everyone's big board, and they traded up to get him at 35, right? Like this guy, they could have stayed put and ended up with this guy, and they overdrafted him, and then it's just like the same, you know, the rest of their draft just kind of followed suit. It made no sense. There was no clear, you know, there was no clear strategy. It was like, it's like going into your fantasy football draft and you know you want like 4 guys, and you just have this funny feeling they're not going to be there when the snake comes around 18 picks later, so you just overdraft them instead of just like playing it smart. That's kind of like what the Falcons did. You know, it's like they went in with like a fantasy football draft mindset, like the first draft of the year, baby. Let's work the kinks out. But you know, for them, it's let's set the franchise back another couple years.
So 2 fun notes off of that. I just found out how to pronounce this guy's name. I'm going to try. It's Rook Orororo. I kid you not.
Stop it.
Rook
No.
Orororo. As in OH, ROH. That is
I
in the
hope that guy goes by
pronunciation guide.
Row.
Yeah, I
just
would
he
hope
goes
so.
by Row.
Row cubed. Give me row cubed is what I'd be going by. But the other note is Bo Nix has actually got Michael Penix beat by just a couple months. He's an old geezer. He's already 24. He turned 24 in February, where Michael Penix Jr. is turning 24 in May. But it kind of goes to the same loser as what you just had. It's Kirk Cousins in general. Because what is the one thing outside of money that is very clear that Kirk Cousins values above all other things? It's job security. Everywhere he's gone, there has never been a moment where you think about pulling Kirk Cousins. And all of a sudden, they have an 8th overall pick come in where if Kirk Cousins is struggling off that torn Achilles early in the year and they're 3-5 in a division where it's going to get a little bit more competitive than we've seen in the last couple of years, are you going to get Atlanta calling for Michael Penix Jr., or are the fans in Terry Fontenot, who also had a really rough weekend, are they going to be clamoring for Michael Penix Jr. early? It's $100 million, but we just saw them eat $40 million dead cap for Matt Ryan a couple of years ago. Who's to say that they don't pull another massive move in the spring of 2025? How about loser number 2 for you, David?
This is my last loser, but it's the Carolina Panthers, who again somehow find a way to do it wrong. And I just, first of all, their draft was mediocre at best, but like their first pick, you trade to get a guy who you didn't have to trade for.
Yeah, but you get the 5th-year option now.
I just, oh God, that's the worst part of it. That's the worst part of it. You could have let him sit there. If you're going to trade up, God, I wish they would have taken, you know, the best receiver available when they did that. But no, they traded up to get just the guy they wanted, that they were desperate they were positionally desperate for, right?
Have you heard him do an interview yet, though?
No.
As soon as you hear this guy's accent, you're going to be like, wait a minute, Wally. This is the best pick of all time. They should have drafted him even earlier. I will pull this up. I'm putting it right here in the clip so that you guys at home can hear it as well. But David, I'm going to play this for you right now.
And the Mullins, South Carolina native would not mind being picked up by the Panthers. That'll be great, man. I'll be right down the road. It'll be a little easier for my family to come watch me play. So that'll be great. That's just them telling me that they want me on their team, man. A lot of coaches came and hollered at me before and after this process here, man. A lot of them, man, they say they got a buzz in their facility for me, man, and I'm just ready to see where I'm going to land.
Oh my God. The way he says facilite, I sound like I'm listening to Forrest Gump.
So we just played that so you guys can hear it at home as well. That guy's accent's the best of all time. Do you still think it's a bad pick now? I think I'd sign him to 10 years. Give him the extension tomorrow. And he's a hometown kid. Give me the Carolina Woods guy.
He's from where? What the fuck? What is he, from the swamps?
I think he's literally in like
accent.
the woods. Because I want to say, oh my gosh, his family is some kind of blue collar background. I can't remember if it's like farmer or something like that, but there was blue collar background. And
I believe that, but
but yeah, that's one of my favorite accents ever. It almost sounded like a Cajun accent where you were talking
that's
about
what I
like
thought it was
Louisiana.
at first. I thought we were talking about, thought we were from the swamps.
Yeah, that's like that Cajun butter, like peanut butter on the roof of your mouth kind of talk.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I'm really sorry I cut you off, but someone had to show you that accent.
No, I'm happy you cut me off. But either way, Carolina's a loser, and it's funny because they, no matter how hard they try, they just can't get anything right. Wally, what's your second one?
All right, so I'll just wrap up with both of them here because the Broncos, without a doubt to me, they take Bo Nix at 12, and that was at the point, I don't even care what they did the rest of the draft. I was euphoric as a Raiders fan. They haven't won against the Raiders since they were the Oakland Raiders. 2019. Moves like this or why? I mean, you got Walmart money now. You're paying Sean Payton out the ass. You're paying Russell Wilson still to not play football on your team. And then you go out and you draft a quarterback on his AARP card. I'm pretty sure the second oldest drafted quarterback ever behind Brandon Weeden, or at least in the last 20 years. This is absurd. And the fact that Sean Payton was bragging and basically saying, guaranteeing effectively that he's going to have a spectacular career made it even better. Because you know my stance on Sean Payton, and I feel like the last 2 years, he's gone out of his way to come off like a pompous ass, and he's just being his own biggest enemy right now, and I love every second of it. But the other loser, I have to say, how about Spencer Rattler? Because I feel like I had my head in the sand up until this weekend, because I never seen the quarterback one video that was making its rounds and was directly referenced by GMs to scouts and insiders in this process that they didn't feel comfortable with Spencer Rattler because of this video of him at 17. And it's a tough watch. But at the same point, if you had videos of me when I was 17, Lord knows if I was talented, I still wouldn't be drafted either. So I'm rooting for him. I hope he's matured. But it is a tough look. And it's been probably, 5 years since that point? It's not a ton of time, but maybe going into a situation where I'm a Derek Carr stan, I'm a Derek Carr fanboy. It's a good spot. I think he's a great leader and a great quarterback to be a mentor to a young Spencer Rattler. So loser this weekend, Bo Nix goes 12th overall, and then the next quarterback's not into the 5th round?
But Bo Nix, man, I know you talked about the Broncos already, but we do need to go back to that and remind everyone that you have to hammer home, they bolstered a division rival with picks so that they could overdraft a QB and then have their coach and GM go to the press conference and say, yeah, man, we totally baited people into taking whoever so we could do this. And it's like,
yeah, benefit an AFC contender at that, by the way, just to look smart in a press conference. Is that like, what was the purpose of it?
I don't know, man, but it's so funny watching people do stupid shit from afar.
It is. And that was stupid, I think, is the only way I can describe it. I still can't wrap my head around it. I know everybody's been doing the 48 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I'm sorry. I have no respect for the Pac-12. There's a reason why you're going to be
That's
finding
the wrong
Pac-12.
Stat to bring up, though. That's the wrong stat to bring. If you're going to bring up a stat about Bo Nix to try and sell him to me, bring up his accuracy in the pocket. All right. Like he
Yeah.
is the most, on paper, he's the most accurate quarterback in the draft. At least do something that requires more than a box score look, you know?
There's a reason why Caleb Williams, the reason why Bo Nix, and I like Caleb Williams. Don't get me wrong. I know it's going to sound a little hypocritical, but the reason why these guys' stats are explosive and just absolutely jump off the page at you, the Pac-12 blows. There's a reason it's gone. There's a reason why it is a sieve, and it literally is absolved, and it's because they could not put together a real contender because nobody can play defense in that conference. See you later. Adios, Pac-12. I'm thrilled you're gone. But leading into the NFL draft, the Lions inked 2 stars. And it was really cool, actually, because then they used them to kick the draft off. Amon-Ra St. Brown signs for 4 years, $120 million, and 77 of that is guaranteed. While star staple left tackle Penei Sewell said left tackle, call it right. I'm an idiot. 4 years, $112 million, and 85 of that guaranteed. I thought it was really cool that they did this in lead up to the draft, where it's been such a special year for Detroit. I mean, I hate that, oh my God, I'm throwing up in my mouth, but before their college team doing what they did, and then you have the Lions going to the NFC title, only the second time in team history, to have these 2 studs there come out, introduce the draft, and then to get that reception of Jared Goff, who was also playing on the last year of his deal, something to keep an eye on. Thought it was fantastic. It's a good time to be a Detroit Lion fan.
Dude, that's a fact. They lock up 2 pinnacle parts of the franchise right before having another solid draft. A controversial one, but a good draft for them. And I just love this team, man. There's just no doubt about it. Like, in my dream world, the Lions and Browns play in the Super Bowl, and like the city's burned to the ground right before the game happens, and it's like Jesus returns at the same time.
Well, that's what would happen because neither team's allowed to win a Super Bowl. He'd come
right.
back like in the fourth quarter of a tie game.
Yeah, it would just be, that would be the end of the cities. We'd rebuild somewhere else, and that would be it for football for everybody in those cities.
It's just cool, though, too, that these 2 were drafted and brought in when this was the Detroit Cowardly Lions, and now they're a Super Bowl threat, and it's one of the healthiest and most enviable cultures in the NFL. I mean, you have teams like the Raiders clearly trying to kind of have their own Dan Campbell of sorts, the former player, raw guy, and it's a game of trends, and that's kind of the trend, and it's because of what Detroit did. So good for them. Tank Dell suffered a minor wound, and I say minor in quotations because it's always scary when you're talking about any kind of gun violence, but he was shot on Saturday night, and all you can say is thank God he's okay, and scary as hell situation, David.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say except it's a wild story, and I'm glad he was an innocent bystander and not another receiver making headlines for being a piece of shit. Like it's like we got
it's
like
harsh,
back
but
to
I hear what you mean.
to back to months. Like I like 6 months in a row of the next receiver up. Like which one's gonna out themselves as being a bad person?
You've seen that tweet before, right? Where it's how like NFL position groups tweet or text, and it's like quarterbacks. It's like I love God, I love my family, I love this team. You have running backs are just like run the ball, blah blah blah. Tight ends, it's derp, and then wide receiver, it's like the quiet enemy comes with a knife or something. Like there's always the craziness when it comes with wide receivers. It's what it comes with. But like you said it perfectly. Just glad he's okay, and wishing a very speedy recovery to CJ Stroud's favorite target. But we want to remind you guys that this week's show is brought to you by Abby Turner Creative, your one-stop shop marketing agency specializing in branding, high-end photography, fashion, and more. Especially if you are around our age where there's college graduations, engagements, weddings, baby pictures, you name it. Feels like they're happening every weekend. Abby Turner Creative is the only way to go. Check her out for yourself at abbyturnerphoto.com. That's Abby, ABBEY, or on her Instagram page at Saw Dad in Sapphire. Again, that is abbyturnerphoto.com. Eagles lock up the other stud wide receiver in that locker room right now, and A.J. Brown. He signed to a 3-year, $96 million deal. $84 million of that is guaranteed. David, this is coming off the heels of locking up their offensive line, of locking up their number 1 and 2 wide receiver. I smell something in the air, David. I hope you smell it too. It is a make or break season for Jalen Hurts.
Got to return back to a year and a half ago. You got to get back to that form. They're a Super Bowl team if he's in that form, but you just got to get back. It's as simple as that.
Well, at least two when you do get. I mean, AJ Brown, when we bring up best wide receivers in football, I feel like he gets slept on when he deserves to be in the conversation with the Jamar Chase, the Justin Jeffersons, the Devontae Adams. He's Tyreek Hill. Like if he's not there, he's directly beneath. It's just in that tier. So having two guys like this, it feels like true ones at the least. Like Devontae might be a very high two. It's an awesome time to be an Eagles fan. But this is the story that is my least favorite story I think we've talked about in 4 years, David. We've done this show for years. And this one, I like it's taboo to say, but Guardian Caps got the okay by the NFL for in-game use. It's taboo. You're not supposed to say it because safety. I hate this so much, David. So much.
I do too. I got to be honest. First of all, I had to, just so we're clear for everyone involved,
Dude, did they hid this? They hid this. Nobody knows about this.
They hid it, but just so we're clear for everyone involved, I had to Google what Guardian Caps were because I didn't know that the padded helmets were called Guardian Caps. But anyways, I think it's going to be stupid, and I think it's going to be funny as fuck when you got a guy like Denzel Ward who's had like 6 million concussions be like forced by the team to look like an idiot out on the field because we need him to. But like ultimately, I don't hate the idea of allowing the players to make a choice to be safer because I think something after looking it up, I think something like 20% or the helmet absorbs at least up to 20% of helmet to helmet impacts. So like instead of a car accident, you get into a fender bender or something. Is it going to make a massive impact? Probably not. Could it help a dangerous situation? Absolutely.
It's taboo, like I said, to be anti this because the players' health, it matters. We don't have a league without players' health. It's the most important thing. So at the end of the day, I am going to watch football. I'm not going to be the guy, I'm not going to watch because they're not wearing normal helmets. But this is my take on this. I want an Oppenheimer style approach to this. I want the best engineers. I want the best doctors working together in a bunker in the mountains of Montana. I want nobody to know about it. And I want us to funnel billions of dollars into this because football aesthetics are perfect. The helmets in the NFL are so cool. It separates it from so many other sports with how cool the uniforms are. Do everything you can. Make these helmets safer. Let's get to the point where we can make these helmets so good that we don't have to wear Guardian Caps. The other thing that gets me, David, is that they're so bulky. How heavy could these things be? Because even if they're not heavy, like let's say it's like a half pound, a quarter pound that you have. Like I just remember, like when we would play football at Walsh together, I hated how bulky everything already is when you're playing football. You need it. You wish it was tighter. You wish it was smaller. If you're wearing that, I got a feeling that like 95% of players are going to wear no Guardian Cap this year, and then it's going to be big
guys who have gotten hurt a lot wearing them.
But then the key is going to be is that whatever percent it is, let's call it 10% of players that wear them, how they do next year, health wise, is going to change or dictate the direction of the helmets and Guardian Caps for years to come. I'm not rooting for injuries or anything. I just want so badly to fix this, to get good helmets. The helmets in football are perfect. Oh my God, the Raiders, they're just going to have this like off gray. Oh my God, it's a disaster. Good luck. Good luck to the players. Hope they make the right choice, though. But with that being said, that will bring us to the end of another episode of Lost It Down. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe to us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Lost It Down. Retweet us on Twitter at _Lost. Remember that this episode was brought to you by Abby Turner Creative. David, before I throw it to you for your final thoughts, just one little quick piece of housekeeping. Steven will be back with us on our next episode, but that next episode might be in several weeks. So the NFL draft is kind of the weird part where you think of the Super Bowl as the end of the NFL season, when in reality, you turn around from the Super Bowl, you prepare for free agency, you have coaches fired and hired, and then you have the NFL draft, the combine. So this is really the first bit of breather that any of us get, and when we talk about this, there's not going to be a lot of news. If there is, we will be back, but for, I think, the next 2 months or so, expect us about every other week unless we come on with like an interview or something. But David, that's our housekeeping. Any fun news on your end? Anything going on? End of April? I don't know. It's about to be dead for a little while for us.
I got nothing but bad news, man. I think I have plantar fasciitis in my left foot.
Oh no!
I like it. It don't feel great. Don't feel great.
We're not the smallest guys, too. I had it like 7-8 years ago, and it took forever to go away. And it's like worse when you're, a man of substance like us.
You're putting more weight on it. Yeah.
Festively plump individuals such as ourselves do not go well with foot injuries.
Facts.
So thinking about you. We're thinking about you, Steven, as well. We hope you enjoyed the last little bit in Greece. Make sure you guys at home wish him a great honeymoon and congratulate him once again on his marriage. Otherwise, another draft in the books, another year really in the books, David. Looking forward to already our next step, baby's training camp. We got a little ways away, but football kind of gets to take a nap here for a little bit, the calm before the storm. That said, go Pirates. I can't say go Pens, they suck. But we love you guys, and we will see you in 2 weeks, second week of May.